Hi and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Muhammad Kubayb. In this video, we are going to discuss how we can configure FSLogix settings via Intune. If you like this video, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for the future updates. If you want to learn more about Citrix, Azure or AWS, you can check out my bestseller Udemy course, which is also available in Udemy for Business. Let's discuss why this is important in our AVD infrastructure. In order to understand this, we need to go back and see what are the available options available as of today for the FSLogix configuration. So to deep dive, as of today, in order to manage the device, we have few things. So one is Active Directory, another one is Azure Active Directory, which is also called as AAD, and then we have Hybrid AD. So the meaning of this is, imagine you have a virtual machine, so which is connected to only Active Directory. This is one scenario. And the second scenario is you have a virtual machine which is connected to only Azure Active Directory. And third scenario, which is a hybrid. In this case, your VM or your virtual machine is connected to both Azure Directory as well as Active Directory. So in all this scenario, let's see how we can configure FSLogix. So as of today, we can use a registry locally on the master image of your Azure Virtual Desktop, or we can use local GPU on the master image, and also we can make use of PowerShell. And the last option and the best option, you can create a group policy on OU level, which is called as domain GPU, and then you can apply it to your Azure Virtual Desktop OU so that your FSLogix settings will be centrally managed. So these settings are works really well if your virtual machine is joined to Active Directory or Hybrid AD. So consider a scenario where you have your virtual machines only joined to Azure Active Directory. So when you join your VM or session host to Azure Active Directory, then you don't have domain or OU level group policy options. So you cannot centrally manage all the settings. So in order to overcome from this challenge, we use one more tool, which is Intune. So Intune will take care about all the policies or settings that you can push to your VDAs or session host. So let's see the prerequisites in order to apply FSLogix settings over Intune. So first thing, we need to have proper Intune license, and then your session host should be enrolled to Intune. So when you're configuring your VDA, so make sure that it is onboarded to Intune. Then we have something called dynamic group. So dynamic group is nothing but we are going to create a group on Intune. So this group will have all the VDIs. So why we are calling it as dynamic means, so we are defining certain parameters to this group so that all the VM should be automatically be part of this particular VDA group. For example, let's imagine you are going to create a parameter saying that all the VMs starting with AZ should be part of this group. So in this case, if I create 100 VMs and it is starting with the name AZ1, AZ2, AZ3, then automatically all the 100 VMs will be part of this group. Similarly, if I have some other group which is starting with demo and here I have 100 more VMs, then this won't be part of this group. Why? Because the parameter does not match the conditions I'm defining. So this is why we are referring it as dynamic group. And then finally we have a configuration policies. So configuration policies are nothing but Intune policies where we are defining the settings. For example, under configuration policy, we are going to define FSLogix settings. So once we apply this configuration policy to this group, so all the computers or virtual machines under that group will get the policy and we are good to go. So this is a brief about prerequisites. So let's see the demo. I'm here at the Azure portal under virtual desktop blade. So I have a host pool which is VDA-HP. So inside this host pool, I don't have any VMs. So let's add one VM. So I'm going to click on add and then I quickly click next, and here I need to enter the details. So I'm going to fill the details. The name prefix I'm going to give demo AVD. The region I'm going to select central layers. So here my virtual machine will get created and I'm not going to use any availability zones I'll keep security type standard and Windows 11 multi-session and the D2S V3. Number of VMs, I'll select two quantity. So I'll keep standard HDD to save the cost since this is a lab. So here I'll select my VNet, and I'm not going to select any NSG because I have already NSG attached to my subnet. So this is very important part. So here we need to select Microsoft Entra ID, which is nothing but Azure Active Directory. So once you select Microsoft Entra ID, so you will have enroll VM with Intune option. So here you need to select S. So the meaning of this is whenever you create any VMs, automatically it will enroll with Intune. So you no need to configure any PowerShell or any other local group policies, etc., etc., on the VMs. So this is a very good option. So in the portal itself, you can join the VM to Intune, and then you define the local admin, enter the password of local admin, and I'll select review and create. So this may take another 10-15 minutes. So let's wait and come back once this is done. So parallelly I'm going to my Intune portal. So this is the URL which you need to use, intune.microsoft.com. So under this, if I go to devices and then if I select Windows, so I don't see any Windows devices as of now. So let's see once this process gets completed. So automatically you will see the virtual machines or your session host over here. So one important note, you need to make sure when you are using Intune along with AVD. So here under Windows, you'll have one option called Windows enrollment. So under Windows enrollment, you'll have one option called automatic enrollment. So here under automatic enrollment, you need to make sure that MDM user scope you set to all or some. If you selecting some, you need to mention the group. So the group is having the devices. So for a better management, you just click all. Otherwise, if you have some specific requirement to apply only to few devices, then you can select some and you can mention the groups. So in my lab I have selected all. So if you are not selecting all, or by default it will be set to none, and you will get error while creating the virtual machines. So always before you create a virtual machine with the Intune option, make sure that you enable all option, and under MAM user scope you select to none and save this configuration. So this is very important. So let's go back to Azure portal and we'll see what is the progress with the host pool addition. So as you can see, the deployment is completed. Let's go to the resources. So as you can see, we have two machines over here. So these are the two VMs, which is demo AVD and demo AVD1. So technically, these VMs are Azure AD joint. So to confirm that, we need to go to the Microsoft Azure AD or Entra portal. So under this, we need to go to the devices. So here we will see the devices. So you can select all devices. So as you can see, we have demo AVD1 and demo AVD0. So if you look into the joint type, which will be Microsoft Entra joint. So under MDM, which is Intune, so it is configured with Microsoft Intune. So this confirms that our AVD machine has successfully joined to Azure AD as well as it is part of Microsoft Intune. So let's jump into the Intune portal and let's go to Windows devices. So under Windows devices, we can see demo AVD0 and demo AVD1, which is now enrolled with MDM or Intune. So now we need to create a device group because these devices should be part of a group. So on that group, we are going to apply the policies using configuration profiles. So let's go to the groups in the left side. So under groups, we need to select all group and then we can click on create new group. So I am going to give a name to the group, which is demo AVD. So let's define the name. So demo Intune VMs. and then I'll select membership type. So in order to add the devices to this particular group, I'm going to select a option called dynamic device. So what it will do, based on the parameters which I am going to define now here under add dynamic query, so all the VMs will automatically get added to this group. So let's click on add dynamic query. So under dynamic query, so we need to select display name. So what I am going to do is I will check the display name of my VMs. So based on the display name, I am going to add to this group. Let's say if the display name of my virtual machine contains demo, then it should automatically add those VMs to this particular group. Let's say if the VMs are having different name, for example AZWVD or something, then it won't get added to this particular group. So it will only get added when the name starts with demo or when the name contains demo. So let's click on save and let's hit on create. So now we have the VMs which is joined to Intune, and also we have the group. So we created a dynamic query. So let's wait for some time and we will see all those VMs should part of this particular group. So let's refresh this page and then we will select the group. So under group we will go to the members. So if you see my VMs which is demo AVD 0 and AVD 1, which got automatically added to this group. So let's say if I am adding another 100 machines with the demo name, so all those 100 VMs are getting added to this group automatically. So there is no manual work is required. So this is the beauty of dynamic device group in Intune. So now we have the group as well. So the last option is we need to create a configuration profile which will have the Intune settings. So before I'm going to create a Windows configuration profile, let's log into one of the VM and we'll see what is the current FSLogix settings in that particular VM. So I'm going to take a RDP of these VMs. So I have a virtual machine called DC, so which is having a public IP address. So I'm going to use this VM as a jump server to log into my VMs, because my demo VMs does not have any public IP address, so that I cannot take direct IDP. So I'll first do IDP to this VM. From here I'm going to connect to one of the VMs using its internal IP address. So I have logged into the DC virtual machine. As you can see the IP address over here. So now I'm going to take a remote of my Azure Virtual Desktop session host. So we have logged into the Windows 11 session host. So I'm going to the registry and I'll verify what is the current value for the FSLogix. So I'll go to HKLM and then I'll go to software and then FSLogix. So under profile, as you see, we don't have any settings. So once we configure these settings over Intune, and if we push the policies, then we will see all the registries over here. That we will look into it later. So parallelly, if you go to settings, and under settings if you go to work profile, so which is under account, so you will see some details over here. So let's go to access work and school. So as you can see, which is saying connected to Azure AD. So it is not connected to any local Active Directory. It is connected to Azure AD and managed by Kubev. Kubev is nothing but my Intune tenant name. So if you click on info, so you will see when it was last synced with Intune service. So as of now, you don't see any policies over here. So otherwise, you will see all the applied policies as well. So let's go back to our Intune portal and we will create the configuration profile. So I am back at my Intune portal. So I'm going to the configuration profile and I'll create new policy. So here we need to select platform as Windows 10 and later. Under profile type, we need to select settings catalog. So let's hit on create, and here we need to define a name. So we'll name it as FSLogix Intune and click next. And under add settings, we need to select add filter. So under key, we need to select OS edition, operator is equal to, and under value, we need to select Windows multi-session. So which is this option, enterprise multi-session. Let's click on apply. So once you select this filter, so you'll get all the policies or all the templates which is specific to multi-session operating system, which is Windows 10 or Windows 11 multi-session. So under this, we need to search for FSLogix. So if you scroll down, so as you can see, we have FSLogix Cloud Cache, FSLogix Logging, ODFC, etc., etc. So to demonstrate in this lab, I'm going to select only FSLogix profile container. So then I will select all these settings. So now all these setting will be added to this particular policies. So I'll close this, and then we have so many options over here. So based on your requirement, you have to choose the one which is required. So I'm going to select one of the very important policy or setting which is enabled. So without this, FSLogix won't work. So we have to make sure that this is enabled, and then we need to make sure the VHD locations. So you just need to give the SMB path. So in my example, I'm going to give some share path. So size in MB, I'm going to keep it as default, so that I'm not going to select this. So by default, it will take 30 GB. So if you wanted to modify, you can select this option and you can mention whatever the size you required. So I'm going to select delete local profile when VHD should apply. So this is very important. So you can avoid so many incidents related to the temporary profile, etc. So always make sure that you select this option. So if you wanted to use Outlook cached mode, so you can enable this option. Similarly, if you wanted to add some exclusions, then you can configure the redirection SML folder. So if you enable this, then you need to give the path for that redirection.xml file, which is having the all the exclusions. So for now, I'm going to use only these settings. So I'll click next, and then I'm not setting any scope. So let's proceed with the next. So this is very important. Here we need to give the details of our device group which we created earlier. So I'll click on add group. So under add group, I will select the demo Intune VMs, and then I will select, and I'll click on next, and I will hit on create and finish. So it will take a while just to create the policies or profiles. So let's hit on refresh. As you can see, FSLogix Intune, which is created. So now technically what it is doing, all the VMs which are part of the particular group which we created will get these settings which we created. So let's go back to our devices under Windows and select one of the device, and we can force refresh from here, and also we can do that from the Windows operating system or Windows VM itself. So in order to do it from here, we can just click on sync and click on S. So it will initiate a sync. To confirm whether this is applied to this particular VM, then we need to go to the device configuration. So here we need to verify whether any policy is applied. So as you can see, there is no data. It means the policy did not apply that. So let's wait for some time. Similarly, if you go back to your virtual machines over here, you can initiate a sync as well. So it will do the sync with Intune, and it will pull all the settings from the Intune cloud. So let's give some time and we'll come back. So let's verify once again. So I'm going to the demo AVD VM. So under this, I'm going to select a device configuration. As you can see now, FSLogix Intune policy or configuration profile, which is applied to this particular virtual machine. So if I go to the AVD1 also, I should be able to see the same settings over here. So let's go to device configuration, and you can see it is applied to this virtual machine as well. So this is one way of verifying whether the policy is applied or not. So there is one more way. what you can do, we can go to the configuration profile blade itself. So under that you need to select your particular profile or particular policy. So let's say this is our policy in this demo. So under this, as you can see, we can get to know how many devices or how many VMs this particular settings has been pushed. So this is how you can configure and apply policies using Intune. So now let's go back to our session host or virtual machine, and we will verify the settings over there. So this is the virtual machine, which is Windows 11. So if I go back to my registry and let me refresh this, and then we will go to profiles. As you can see now, all the settings which we have configured on the Intune configuration profile got applied over here. For example, let's say the enabled option, so it got enabled. And also if you see the VHD locations, so it is also got reflected. Similarly, as you can see, what are the values which we set. For example, delete local profile when VHD should apply, as well as for the Outlook cached mode. So this is how you can centrally configure and manage all the settings related to FSLogix from Intune portal, which is very helpful when it comes to Azure Active Directory joined virtual machines, because there is no mechanism to use GPO when it comes to Azure AD. So when it comes to Azure Active Directory joined VMs and you wanted to use FSLogix, so we need to make sure that we have to use. So when it comes to Azure Virtual Desktop with Azure Active Directory, one important note we need to keep it in mind that we should use hybrid identities for the user login. So we cannot use pure cloud only or any user which is created purely on the Azure AD. So it should have a Active Directory footprint which got synchronized using Azure AD Sync. I have covered this in my previous blogs, so you can check out my YouTube videos where I have covered this in details. So thank you for watching this video. I hope this is helpful for you. So please hit the bell icon and subscribe to my channel, and also do check out my other YouTube and Udemy courses for further learning.